Hey Pyro, I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful seashell coaster. Let's get started. First thing you want to do is secure your wood burning stand to the table. I like to use just a little piece of tape. It's quick and easy, and if I need to move the stand, I can. It's not a big deal. Then you're going to need your wood burning tool and the brass nibs that you're going to use. For this particular tutorial, we are going to use this nib. This nib is the flow point. It'll give you a slightly larger line than the mini flow point and a little more control over lines than the shading point. All we're going to do is take this brass nib, put it into the barrel of the wood burning tool, and screw it in hand tight. Then we'll set our burner on our secured stand. Now it's time to gather your supplies. First, you're going to need a coaster, some sandpaper, some tape. I recommend painter's tape or artist tape. Then some carbon paper or graphite paper, and something to transfer it using either an embossing tool or a pencil. I'm going to use the embossing tool. I like that better. Next, you're going to want a sand eraser, and then, of course, your pattern or design. Once you have all of that, it's time to get started. First thing you want to do is sand the surface. A pro tip here, sand in the direction of the wood grain, and then make sure that you wipe off any excess sanding dust. Next up, you want to transfer your pattern. So cut it down to size and then tape it down on just one side so that you can lift it up. And the reason you do that is so that you can check your progress when you are transferring your pattern. So here I'm just taping it across the top, securing that down. And then you're going to use your graphite or your carbon paper, shiny side down, and put it in between the pattern and the wood. That's going to help transfer your design. Then you use your embossing tool or your pencil, whatever you chose to use, and then you go over every part of the pattern. The most important thing is just that every part gets transferred over to the wood, and so you make sure that you touch every part of it. If you push hard, it'll make the pattern really dark, and if you make any mistakes, that's kind of hard to erase. So I highly recommend that you press lightly and just lightly go over every part of the pattern. If at any point you don't know where you left off on the pattern, or you just want to check your progress and see how much has transferred to the wood, you simply lift the pattern and the transfer paper and check your progress. And then you can see what you've already traced and what you have left to trace. Once you have traced on the pattern, do a final check to make sure the entire pattern is totally traced, that you haven't missed any pieces. Once you've checked that the entire pattern was transferred, remove the transfer paper and your pattern and turn on your wood burner. After you leave that plugged in for just a couple of minutes, it's ready to burn. To start, you are simply going to trace over all of those lines that you transferred with your graphite or carbon paper, and you're going to trace over it with your wood burning tool. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. In the end, we will come back in and touch it up, but if it bothers you, feel free to touch it up as you go. Now, if possible, do your best to keep the burns on the actual transfer lines. It becomes hard to remove them once you have burned over these lines, and that's because heat sets graphite and it sets carbon. And so if you don't burn directly over the line, then it becomes much harder to remove. I also recommend that you always keep your burner in motion when it is touching the wood. If you don't, if you pause on the wood, it is going to leave a heat mark, a blob, or a splotch on your burn. And you really don't want that. So always keep your burner in motion. I also recommend that you pull the burner towards you or pull it side to side in order to get the lines in, rather than pushing it forward. If you push it forward, you run the risk of pushing the burner into the wood, because the burner has a tendency to get caught on some of the unevenness of the grain of the wood. Since it's not like paper, there are hard spots and soft spots. And if you hit a soft spot, and then you are pushing forward, sometimes it'll sink into the soft spot and then hit the hard spot, and then you are left with a gouge in your wood. So I recommend pulling it towards you or pulling it side to side. I also recommend doing short burn lines instead of long burn lines. The shorter lines are just more forgiving. I also suggest that you do not press. When you press, it simply risks the chance of breaking your tool. It stresses out your wrist. It makes your grip tighter, and it's hard on the wrist and on the fingers. It is really better if you do not press. You cannot muscle a burn. You cannot force it to be darker. The only way to let it be darker is to let the burner spend more time on the wood. That is how you get a darker line, and so you have to allow the heat to do the work. My suggestion is to just relax and allow the burner to glide across the wood, and then touch up any spot where the burner did not make a dark enough mark on the wood. Something else that really helps me is turning the wood instead of my hand. I don't do it a lot on these videos, but I find that turning the wood instead of my hand tends to be a lot easier to get the burn to pull towards me or be able to pull side to side. The last thing I recommend is to enjoy. Wood burning by nature is a very slow process. Just enjoy the feeling of the wood melting beneath your wood burning tool. When you are satisfied with your piece, it's time to finish it, and you can do this with Danish oil or resin, epoxy, polyurethane, anything like that. I personally like to use a layer of spray paint or spray polyacrylic, and then I will follow it up with a couple of layers of brush-on polyacrylic. And then it is time to admire your finished wood-burned piece. If you enjoyed this, you should hop on over to burnsavvyacademy.com, where we have tutorials, workshops, and wood burning courses that teach you professional pyrography techniques. Also remember to check out the other coaster tutorials so that you can make this entire seaside coaster set. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Later, Pyro!